All right. I think the stream is finally working. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Brotherhood of Gaming. For those of you who will be joining in or watching this later, we just got through. All of us just got through watching Jeepers Creepers 3 at our local theaters for the one night special because thank you, SJWs, for ruining it for everybody. So here we are. Now it's time to give our thoughts on the movie. Some of us have been waiting a long time for this movie. Some of us went into this movie just because others demanded and forced them to, kicking and screaming. And others just went because they were curious. I think this movie was more like it. It's not without problems, but I think there's plenty of good in it for it to be enjoyed. Meanwhile, it's not just me. I am your William Morris, your graceful host of the Brotherhood of Gaming, as you all well know, and maybe you do, maybe you don't, if you're a newcomer. And I am also here with one of my best buddies across the across the country, Mr. George Kafka, who is also commentating. Introduce yourself, or just say hello.
Hello.
And behind me, playing Zelda Breath of the Wild because he's late to the party with Zelda, is Nate, who also went and saw the movie. Welcome, Roast Bowels, Brotherhood of Gaming for Life. Oh, we know. So, Jeepers Creepers 3. We have a lot to say about this film. We've already talked off camera and like on quick Facebook updates about the film. We've gotten the hype out of the way. So now we can get to the nitty-gritty. Now we can dissect the film. Now we can talk about the big problems. Now, first thing we made abundantly aware that we need to get out of the way is talking about, and we, because we're sure some of you might have brought it up, is the whole Victor Salva director history, which we know it happened 30 plus years ago. We do have our own thoughts on it, but that's not what we're here for.
Yep, we're here for the movie.
Totally. This is not about Victor Salva and his history. This is about Jeepers Creepers 3. So, SJWs, you've already won. you damaged the movie. Are you happy now? Sorry, I was just caught looking at the music for Zelda. Meanwhile, all right. The movie, I think, for the most part, for me personally, delivered on what I wanted. I wanted to see more of the monster, just being the monster, because in the first film we were set up with the suspense, we were set up with the horror. We didn't know anything about him. We didn't know what he was he a monster, was he a demon, was he human? And then by the end of that film, it's revealed, okay, he's some menacing gargoyle creature. We don't know anything about him, but we know he's a threat for sure.
Definitely a threat.
And the second film, they took that a little bit further. I'd say the second film definitely also has some horror elements to it, but it is in a lot of ways a lot more cheesy.
Yes.
A lot more fun. And that's when you kind of learn a little bit more about the creeper, because you actually spend a little more time with him, so you can see that he's kind of got a sinister sense of humor. He can point fingers at you like, "Ha, you're gonna get it." He can wink at you like, "Oh, you're so dead." He can smile at you, and he's got quite an arsenal of weaponry. So, if there's anything the second film did for us, it was give us a little bit more insight of how the creeper really operates, while the first one really hammed up the suspense more than anything. So now here we are with the third one, and what does it bring to the table? I'll let George take over and see what he thinks.
Well, first of all, what we're going to add is that for the first few minutes we're talking about this, we're going to try and skip the spoilers. So this part should be fairly safe to listen to. We're going to switch over at some point when we really get into the movie, and then it's going to be spoilers. So we will warn when that happens. Overall, I actually liked this one quite a bit, and I didn't think I was going to. I'm not a big Jeepers Creepers fan. I'm more when William was mentioning the kicking and screaming part, I know that was to me. But I went willingly. I went and I saw this one, and I wanted to see what it was like. And the film really does hold up pretty well as long as you don't go over it with a fine-tooth comb. You start to pick this thing apart, it unravels like string cheese. But yeah, I think that overall it was good. It set up the bridge between the first and the second film. That's entirely its role. They make it clear enough because they have characters and things like that from the first one, and they'll eventually get to the tie-in with the second one at the end. So that's pretty much what we're looking at.
And they also drop factoids that are going to be taken advantage of when the inevitable, hopefully, the fourth film comes out.
Yes, that is true. Um, and again, we'll get into a lot more of it when we get into the spoilery territory. But for now, like we're just talking like the general things. We actually looked at a couple of reviews online before we decided to do this because a couple people had released their thoughts, and
Some we
honestly, I
agreed
did.
with, and some we were just like, I think he missed the point.
Yeah, and that was kind of the problem we had. We had one guy that was pulling things out of the film and acting like they were big problems, and we're like, they really weren't. We'll get to that, and then that guy was also talking too much about the director, and I think that was actually coloring everything. That's why I said we're going to focus on the movie.
Yeah,
And
I didn't want to too much into the other critics because, well, everybody's a critic and everybody's got an asshole. Um,
yep,
but yeah, it really did bother me how we were just sitting there listening to some of these reviewers from people who had just walked out of the theaters claiming to be big fans of Jeepers Creepers and talking as if this one was a complete betrayal to everything they knew.
yeah, that didn't make sense to me.
And I'm sitting there like, did you watch the first two?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. This film, when we really get into it, it does have problems. It's got some continuity things and whatnot that are just real head scratchers, But if you just watch this film independently and don't think too much about it, it's not bad. It holds up pretty well.
It's a fun film. It really was made for the fan. Yeah, it really was made for the fans. That is clear from the start. The only reason this movie exists is because fans demanded to see more of the Creeper. And you know what? You cannot harp on it for failing at that because it didn't. It delivered.
Yes.
We got to see the Creeper up the ass. In fact, this movie is not a horror movie. I didn't think it was a horror movie. I didn't even really think the second one was a horror movie that much because by that time we already know what the monster is, and it's this. Actually, Nathaniel made a fair comparison. The Creeper is very much a combination of Freddy Krueger and Jason. He's got the sense of humor of Freddy Krueger, but at the same time, he's got the seriousness of Jason, where yeah, and the bloodlust, where he's no joke, but he knows how to kind of poke fun at the situation because he's badass and he knows it. He for as far as he knows, he's invincible and he can't be touched, or at the very least, he can't be beaten. So
Yes, and
go on.
that's something that these franchises do kind of do is that once the killer is kind of established and he gets a bit of a fan following, then they kind of have more fun with it, almost knowing that you're going along for the ride for the villain, pretty much, and that's what you get a sense of in this one too.
Sorry if my audio is low. I'm adjusting that as we go on. Hopefully it's better now. Probably is. Because yeah, I didn't want any looping feedback going into the microphone, but
Don't worry about the audio situation.
all right. So yeah, we got to see the Creeper a lot. He's badass in the film. This is not a horror film. This is the Creeper wrecks your shit movie. If you want to see a movie where the Creeper just wrecks your shit, this is the movie, and it is awesome. It does not it does not pretend to be a horror film. It does not pretend to build up suspense. Yes, it does try to do some of the jump scares, which for some, apparently even George, who's a big critic when it comes to films and very picky. I've seen his Critica account. Um, like I've seen his Critic account. He's fucked up.
Making me out to be Anton Ego here.
Yeah, he's really messed up. Even he conceded that yeah, there was one jump scare in there that was actually really well done, and he kind of like he was like good on the director for making that choice because that got him.
Should we just say at this point that we're going into the spoiler territory because it feels kind of like we're going there?
You know what? Let's just end the non-spoiler territory with us saying, you know what? At the end of the day, you should already know whether or not this is a kind of film that you're going to be into. Are you into horror movies at all? Yes or no? If you can answer that and say yes, then there's hope. If are you into monster films? Because if you don't like characters like Freddy Krueger, if you don't like the Hammer style horror films, if you don't like the occult classics, if you don't appreciate monster movies in general, there's no reason for you to see this.
No hope for you.
There's no reason there's no reason why you would go see this. It's a monster movie. If you don't find monster films scary, then it's not your thing. If you find them entertaining, well, that's a different thing. So you might already know whether or not this is for you. But otherwise, I do say it is worth seeing to draw your own conclusion. I would not buy into the regular moviegoer who just said, who played complete elitist, who claims that this film was a complete betrayal. When I'll be honest, I mean the first two films are not Oscar worthy, but they're fun. So,
Yeah.
go see it. Draw your own conclusion.
Yeah, that might also be the conclusion of just a minority of folks. I glanced briefly at Rotten Tomatoes after I came out of the film because I was curious. I wanted to see what the audience thought of it, and they had like 1,000 or so reviews, and basically 95% of like audience goers liked this one. Which, if you compare that to the other two, big difference. Now, some of that it's the cult following goers who are going the first day for this, so it's going to skew it no matter what. But I think overall this is going to be treated better than the first two.
Probably, and even coming from you, again, I've seen your Critica account. Even you said that you liked this film. You didn't love it, but you liked it.
Like I said, as long as I don't look at it too hard, because I start pulling threads.
Oh yeah, because even I can see that. Yeah, there are threads to be pulled, and the same can
Yes.
be said with any horror movie. I mean, what's the one thing I always say, George? They gotta make a movie.
Yeah, that's your cop out for everything.
And it's true. You gotta make a movie, which means there are certain rules, there are certain tactics and cliches that you kind of have to follow when it comes to movies like these. Even Randy from the Scream movies, which are great films, by the way, you should see those just for like the commentary on horror movies in general is really well done with those movies. Randy holds true. Like, yeah, there are certain rules when it comes to these horror films that you can't really deviate from. You can revolutionize them, but they still have to happen.
This is true. So at this point, can we go into the spoiler territory?
All right, so my friends, this ends the non-spoiler part of the review. If you haven't seen the movie and if you want to see it, other than bootlegging it or waiting for the December DVD release, I don't see how that's possible. So here we go. The spoiler review starts now for Jeepers 3. And go.
All right. So here's my big thing. The movie is meant to be a bridge between the first and the third movies. And does it do that? Yes. But once you start looking at it, you start having some real problems. I'm going to get to what I consider to be the biggest problem, which is actually the tie-in to the second movie, which we'll get we'll get into it in greater detail later. But to me, this is the big, WTF moment of the film. Towards the end of this movie, one of the people who survives basically gets on the bus, which is in the second Jeepers Creepers film, and that's meant to kind of tie it together. And the big problem we had instantly, because it's a bunch of years that have passed, so obviously it wouldn't be the same actor that'd be in the second movie, but we don't recognize this guy who got on the bus.
No.
And yeah, we don't. And not only that, if this guy was there, wouldn't he have tried to warn everybody? Wouldn't he have? He just dealt with the creeper throughout this entire movie. Wouldn't he have tried to say, "Look, this is what this thing is. I know a little about him." And there's none of that in the second Jeepers Creepers movie.
Which is crazy because it's not like the kids on the bus in the second movie are ambiguous. We do spend a good amount of screen time with each kid, even if not one kid directly. We spend enough time with them in groups to learn about them, to give them each their own personalities that make them stick out, so that when you kill them off, you're like, oh well, that one's gone. So it was a very strange continuity error that was willingly put in there. It was not by accident. So why is this character who is introduced between 1 and 3, who has been tangoing sort of with the creeper, maybe not hands-on directly, but he's seen him, he saw what he can do, he's been spooked by him, and he was spared by the creeper. And then at the end of this movie, he's going on the bus, which is the main target of the second film, and not once brings up the fact that, oh, I've seen this guy.
Yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, no matter how we tried to justify it, we were saying things like, well, maybe he got off the bus and stuff like that. You would have no indication of that in any of the films for it. We could not tie this together. We couldn't make sense of it. William had actually commented that it would make more sense to just see that bus going by where the footballers are all cheering and whatnot, and not have the kid get on the bus, and that would have worked just as well because you know where that's going, and it
Or,
wouldn't have continuity.
I found another way to end the movie. Why not start the movie out in a cornfield and you see the creeper land on one of those scarecrow perches and just prop himself up as a scarecrow? You know where that's going.
That's true. So yeah, that would have been really good. And again, we jumped to the end one just because to us it was the biggest thing, but there was definitely some other stuff as we went through it that was kind of the problem. When you meet the characters and whatnot, you know in a film like this that most of them are going to die. That's just a given. And in this one,
somebody's got to go.
yeah, absolutely. So some of these folks you're getting introduced to, not much is going to happen with them. And they start spending screen time with several characters. If you've seen the previews, you kind of know what I'm talking about, or seen the movie, obviously. There's an old woman who kind of deals with the creeper's hand, basically 23 years ago. There's a lot of references to 23 years prior for some of this, where people had encountered the creeper, and they're trying to figure out how to stop him now.
Yeah,
and
people who were directly involved, like they lost somebody or they saw somebody.
Yep.
One of the characters is referenced to have seen his father's heart pulled out right in front of him and eaten, and that fueled his rage to come out and go for the creeper. Hello, Big Poppy. Welcome to the
flashback.
Yeah.
I don't want a flashback.
Yeah, Big Poppy. Welcome to the stream. Question: can you give this movie a solid 5 out of 5?
No.
But do not take that as a means to say that we give it a low score either.
No.
It's very strange. Like,
if you look at it at like not,
I think it's a good movie.
like a budgeted film,
I think it's a good movie. If you're a monster movie fan, if you were a fan of the first two, you should be happy. You should be satisfied because you get exactly what you expect or what you probably would have wanted. You get a lot of the creeper, and you get to see him do a lot of creeper things.
Yes. And it's kind of fun in that regard, too.
Yeah, so that's what makes it fun. So if you wanted that, which a lot of us did, I certainly did, I was satisfied.
Yes. But yeah, once we go through some of the problems throughout it, it's just there was too much to ever give this a 5 out of 5. I would even push giving it a 3. I'd give it a 2.5. I know William grades a little easier than I do, so he'll probably.
It's not that I grade easier. I'm a little bit more fair because I can understand genres, I think, a little better. That, like, when it comes to horror, giving a horror film a 5 out of 5, period, is pretty hard to do because you already typically know what standards they have to do. You got to have a chick who runs upstairs instead of out the front door. You gotta have a chick trip. You gotta have a chick trip all over herself.
And she, to be fair, the chick in this movie does some dumbass shit. we'll get to a few of those.
So it's like you can't judge this movie next to a movie like Casablanca. Like, there's their own lists and statuses. So in terms of horror movies, would you get or thrillers? Would you give this a 1 out of 5? In terms of horrors, not every other movie.
I would never give this a 1 out of 5 in horrors. I can bump it up to a 3 in terms of horrors because I still think there are horror movies that do a better job than this. But at the same time, yeah, I'd place it in the better half, of films. Like, there's a lot to enjoy. This really is one of those films where you're going along for the ride for the creature wreaking havoc, and once you establish that, the series, you can kind of get away with that, and I think it does that pretty well.
And I will say that even though critics like us could be a little bit more critical and say that, we can give it a 2 or give it a 3, I will say that if you're a fan of this particular monster, you're gonna like it a lot more because it's for you.
Yeah, like I said, 95% of the folks that saw this seem to like it. I mean, that has to say something. There's a base out there that thinks that this stuff is really good. So, absolutely.
Yeah,
I do recommend going to see it if you're a fan of the Jeepers Creepers franchise at all.
Or just monster movies in general.
Yeah.
Especially, or not necessarily horror movies, but if you like thrillers.
Each time I hear the term thriller, I always think of the freaking zombies.
Yeah, so like when it comes to Jeepers Creepers, there's another thing that I kind of say, like in the video game world, like you have famous franchises like Metal Gear Solid and Kingdom Hearts, which some kind of find taboo because of reasons, And all I can really say is that when it comes to those things, including Jeepers Creepers 3 and some franchises, there's really no defending them. Either you're on board and you get it, or you don't.
That's true. But let me just get back to the characters dying off point that I was starting to make, which is, in a movie like this that a bunch of characters are going to die off. It was just really bizarre because in some of the movie they were putting together like this task force that was going to go and kind of kick the creeper's ass because they figured it was the only way to do it. And then when they actually chase off after the creeper, they don't call into the other units or anything like that. There's only a couple of cops or renegades or whatnot really going after him. And, my whole thing is if you think there's strength in numbers, boy, are you doing it wrong. I was kind of expecting that to be the vulnerability of the creeper in this movie, was that he really gets ganged up on, and not really. It just seemed like a really dumbass moment for that. And I think that falls into, letting the creeper have fun and not giving him anything as a super serious threat in this movie.
Like, could you imagine the creeper just tearing through all of these guys like a Jedi through battle droids?
I kind of would like to see that, and I was kind of hoping to see that. I was still expecting the creeper to get kind of messed up, but to me, that makes sense. We're going to tackle this thing as a group because this thing is really dangerous. And, they don't. They really don't do that. So that was one.
They try sometimes, but they're either always too late because the creeper just barely avoids them, or the trail has gone cold. Because, let's face it, a guy like the creeper, he is really hard to track down. The dude can fly a lot faster than you can drive and run. And you'll never catch him. Like, especially if you're looking for him and you're trying to shut him down, you'll never catch him in the midst of the act. Because even like they say in the film, he never attacks the same place twice.
Is he like lightning? He's like lightning then. No, I don't know. I would think that some places he does go back to, but they normally
I would say that. I'm like, that's a little.
He always goes back to his car.
Yeah, I'm just kind of sitting there like, oh, excuse the dog, but yeah, I'm sitting there thinking that's kind of a bit much to. My dog is just going. That's the problem with live stuff, like, Bruiser.
There we go.
Yeah, the dog is just going crazy. So where was I? Where was I?
I have lost track at this point.
Shit. Where was I? He's hard to keep.
We're going back to the same.
It's hard for. Yeah, it's hard to believe that he doesn't attack the same place, considering his home base of operations has got to be nearby. I can believe that he's probably got more than one, because he burned down his church area, and he didn't seem to lose any sleep over that. So he's probably got more than one base of operations where he can store himself. So
and now, in this movie, of course, there's his van, which you remember seeing a lot in the first movie, and oddly enough, it's not there in the second movie. So interestingly enough, I thought something was going to happen to the van in this movie. I was like, well, there must be some explanation as to why it's not in Jeepers Creepers 2.
I'll do you one better. I thought something was going to happen to his battle axe because he used that in the first movie and he didn't use it in the second film.
Yeah, and that didn't. So to me, those couple of things feel a little weird, that you don't see them anywhere in Jeepers Creepers 2. So that's definitely like a bit of a concern.
I mean, you can always make the argument that in the second movie, he's really only stalking a bunch of defenseless, hapless kids on a bus who can't even agree to work together themselves. So it's not like he has to try too hard.
I guess, but the kids and the farmer do mess him up pretty bad in that one. Mostly the farmer, I guess.
Well, the farmer prepared for him, and
yeah, that's the funny thing is the farmer had a lot better luck. But yeah, so okay. The Creeper's van actually takes on a pretty big scene in this particular movie. We got 4 kids that basically stumble across it, and they kind of half know what it is because they know from the stuff of rumor and legend about how this is the killer's van. And at first they think, oh, it's just some prank because it's that time of year, and somebody every year makes.
Say it's like, oh, it's like Halloween. Like, this is the rumors about that guy who. Like Jeepers Creepers and stuff. Apparently he's kind of become like a mythos. And they're like, oh yeah, this is like his van or something. Like the license plate even matches. The whole be eating you thing. Like, yeah, around Halloween time people make this shit up all the time. Which is kind of strange.
I do like the fact that somebody made a reference to beating you, because I'm sorry, when I look at that license plate, that's what I see. Because if you don't have the context for knowing what this guy does, that's what that license plate says.
Beating you?
Yeah,
Well, yeah, in the first movie, that's what Derry was saying. Like, nobody called it out as eating you. In the first
yeah,
movie, like, Derry only acknowledged it as beating you.
yeah. That is true. But I always found that, because it's like an inside joke, and I guess it remains that way, even in this film. But yeah, so you get to the scene with his truck, and basically the kids don't know, what to do with it, so they're kind of wandering around. One's dumb enough to bang on the windows, and of course you have that moment where you think something's going to happen. Um, Another one decides, this whole thing is just kind of not to be taken seriously, and so he decides to take a piss on the truck. Um,
And
yeah,
the
exactly.
moment that happens, the moment the piss hits the truck, it's like, well, you just sealed your fate.
Yeah,
you are now you are now officially on borrowed time.
exactly. Creeper goes by scent an awful lot, and you better believe you just marked your scent where he can find it.
And not only did you mark his scent where he could find it, now he's pissed. Like, you son of
Yeah. So, you
Fucking
know
American Rust, dude.
that so yeah, I mean, that whole scene, because basically the four kids, they run into the creeper at that truck eventually, and they, one of them. Oh, that's the other thing we should mention about this truck. This truck, you might have seen it in the previews if you haven't seen the actual movie yet. Although again, we've obviously gone well into spoilers. The truck from its back shoots out this harpoon like thing that basically it basically it just spears one of the kids. Now it's kind of unclear as to whether or not the creeper has fired it himself, or maybe there was just a mechanism on the truck that somehow triggered because they were all behind the truck. It's just not really specified, but the point is, you know harpoon basically just spears one of these kids, and at that point now they're left with a really tough decision because he's gored, and they need to figure out what to do. And eventually, the creeper shows up, and then it's like, oh damn.
you can have
Uh,
him.
yeah, pretty much. So all that stuff, like that particular scene overall, pretty good. It's got that great moment where you want to go, yeah, creeper, get him. So it works really well.
And he seems
Uh,
like kind of just very frustrated when he's trying to get them all. He's just like, man, I hid this truck out here in the sticks, thinking nobody was gonna bother it. And like when one kid gets retracted, he doesn't even have bother to take that kid out. He immediately just opens up the back of his van. The van doors hit the kid, knocking him to the floor. He's like, screw you. He's just like, you know what? Let me get this harpoon. Then he starts lining it up to like track the other kids, just to get them like meddlesome pests.
Absolutely. And the thing is, at
Despite
that
his
point,
helpless
the kid's
state,
impaled. He knows that one's,
too
yeah.
shocked to even react.
Yeah, the guy on the floor that has the harpoon in his leg, yeah, he's too shocked to say anything to help his friends out.
Which is kind of like a minor thing. It's hard to really criticize him for it, but at the same time, you see the creeper about to throw a harpoon at the other kids, and he doesn't shout. He doesn't try and get them, by the way. Exactly. Doesn't try and stop him.
Get
You
down!
know, I know he's got a harpoon in his leg, but he's just sitting there like a spectator going, what's this guy going to do now?
Well,
So,
if you think about it, he could be standing there thinking, if I say anything, if I try to help my friend, he could easily just turn and strike me with that harpoon.
admittedly, which is why I kind of discount it. This is my personal thing, but I don't count it as like a huge movie continuity problem. Like, can people be dumbasses in the moment? Oh, yes, they can. So, absolutely. But yeah, he basically, ends up spearing another couple kids. One of them runs off, happens to be the one who peed on the truck. And, so he's off. But again, the creeper's got his scent, so he's eventually going to go off after him. That deals with the kids. Now, we're going to get to a point in this movie, like, okay, there was a severed hand, and you might have seen that in previews as well and stuff like that, that essentially it belongs to the creeper. And the hand is very weird in that even disembodied, it moves, and it'll grip you and stuff like that. Exactly. It feels like it's very much alive, even though it's a part, no longer a part of the creeper directly. And so this woman digs it up because, she knows that the 23rd year is coming and she's expecting stuff to happen. And she's, I don't know whether I'll say dumb enough or curious enough to basically put her hand near the hand, and it basically grips her. And it turns out that touching this hand basically puts you with a connection to the creeper where you can see its origins, which on the surface, that sounds kind of cool. And you have that moment where it's like, is it worth doing? Because this hand really does seem like it'll just grip the shit out of you. And, it might cause some bodily harm, and you don't know if something bad will happen to you. But of course, you know, the woman does, and eventually later on, another person will do it as well. And so that's neat. One of the big problems I have with this film is, I heard somebody say it reveals a lot about the creeper, and that's both true and false. Because it does, but it reveals it behind the curtain. You never get to see or hear anything about what these people experience by gripping the hand and learning all about the creeper.
And what
So
sucks is that they know.
yeah. And they say nothing. Okay, like there's one point where there's two people that basically grip the hand. One is the old woman, and the other one is the black guy who's sort of the head of the task force that wants to kill the creeper. And so they both gripped it. And there's this relatively long car ride where the sheriff and the black guy basically are riding along, and all the guy says is this thing is ancient, more or less. That's all he reveals. And I'm like, really? That's
we
it?
knew that.
No tips on how to kill this guy because you're about to go up against him. They happen to encounter Creeper's truck, and then they of course rush right into battle before knowing a thing or having anybody else help.
Here's a theory that I kind of came up with on the spot as I was actively watching it. He's very resistant on explaining anything about the creeper, and that kind of puzzles me and makes me wonder, because I was sitting there thinking, why?
Because the thing is,
why is he not?
Thought that he could win.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sitting there thinking, did he learn something about the creeper that now he's nervous? Like, I thought me and my task force of angry police officers and farmers and with the right equipment could hunt down and beat this guy. I just learned a horrible truth about it, and if I tell anybody, that'll hurt the morale of the group. Like, what if we do have a shot, but what, like, me having just learned what I learned, if I tell anybody, like, we're basically fucked more than we are. Even like when they do face the creeper head on and they're chasing him down, even then at any other time, you'd think our black guy would be like, oh, we found him, everybody get over here right now, let's chase him down, task force group together, let's chase him down, let's get him. But it was only after that he learned what he learned, he was very resistant on approaching him and doing anything. He didn't want his friends to shoot at him. He actually didn't even want them to really approach him. Because it now feels like he learned something that changes the name of the game. Like, we're no longer in a winning position if we're doing this the way that we thought we should. And that's what I was sort of picking up, that I think he learned something that scared him to the point that he no longer has the confidence that he started off with.
See, I disagree, and I'll tell you why. Because later in the film, I don't know why, because this is dumbass too, the creeper will find the hand basically stabbed and with a note that says, "We know what you are," and he got really freaked out about it, like in what I saw somebody refer to as a Darth Vader kind of moment, and he's right. It felt very out of character for the creeper for that. To me, he should have been pissed. He should have smashed up his hand. He should have been angry more than, I don't know, despairing, even if it's a serious threat. But if it is a serious threat, that kind of goes against what you just said, that it's such a long shot. That the two of them don't mesh together for me. What I got from this is that, when the officer and the black guy are going in, they're going in with just them, which is bizarre. And why would you do that unless you thought you had a chance of taking him down? And yet, how could you if you haven't told anybody how to do it? So that
we don't know what they know. Like, when the creeper is doing his, like, Darth Vader, no, we don't know if that's because they found out anything, or if it's because, like, he really only does that when he's under a stressful situation. And he did, like, the plug is over there, and he did just get shot in the chest with, like, Gatling gun. So at that point, he's hurt, he's got jammed in the face, one of his prey got loose, and he's got somebody who has a 23-year-old severed hand, and he's like, okay, what do they know? So at this point, he's just like, like, today is just not going right.
Exactly. And actually, it's funny you should mention that, because one of the things that happens in this movie that I haven't seen happen anywhere else is that when the creeper brings back people to his truck, normally they're either dead or so badly wounded they can't do anything. And there was a case in this movie where that wasn't true that I could see. The girl that he captures, which is like one of the main character folks, she doesn't even seem to be wounded to me.
Nope.
and she's basically just put in kind of a burlap sack, with a hood and whatnot, and tied up a little bit, and that's it. And to me, like, I'm at least reasonably sure that the creeper knew that she was alive. Maybe he didn't care. Maybe he's like, oh, this girl will not be a problem for me to hunt down if she tries anything or whatnot.
My
But
truck is booby trapped. Like nobody else.
yeah,
I'll find her.
and I think that was part of it. Because his truck, by the way, truck very badass. Like, this is the one thing I
Oh
have
yeah,
to admit.
yeah, definitely, guys. Back in the day when you had a conversation about like the coolest cars, like what were the ones to come up? You'd bring up the Duke Boys, that one. You'd bring up the Black Beauty from the Green Hornet. You'd bring up the freaking Batmobile. I am now officially putting the Jeepers Creepers truck on the list of most awesome vehicles because this thing rivals the goddamn Batmobile.
Yeah, it's the one thing they definitely did right in this movie. They made it very ominous, very much a dungeon in itself. With just it really tough as nails in terms of it, because like they try and shoot out the tires, they can't do it because there's some kind of, I don't know, some kind of steel radio where they can't even do it. Bullets bounce off this thing, which it feels ever so slightly silly, but at the same time, when you're dealing with it in the moment, it's like, damn.
The bullets bounce off this thing like freaking Superman, man.
Mhm.
The bullets do nothing.
Yep. I mean, it's got that harpoon, which I still don't know if it's somehow remotely, or if it's triggered by people running behind it, or if the creeper set it off. But the harpoon is kind of a neat factor. If you try and jump out of this truck from the back, try and open the door and go out, it's got these two stalagmite, stalactite steel jaws that basically will just catch you so that you'll die.
It's got like a Venus flytrap thing going on in the bay. If you are not the creeper and you try to open it and go in or out, that thing is gonna Venus flytrap, whoosh, like a bear trap, just come down on top of you.
Yep. And what they also have these, these rods or spikes in the vehicle that if you go somewhere you're not supposed to go, like at one point there were actually two people alive in the van, and one of them tries to escape by the passenger side door, and he basically gets gored, with a spike right through his head. So
Which
it
I
goes to
thought
show.
was kind of funny because it's like that is a very circumstantial spot for that for that one spike to come through.
If you think about it, though, if the creeper is trying to make this into a death trap, any exit that is not his, you know,
Yeah, I guess
that,
Nate's right. It could catch your leg, it could catch your hand, but
yep.
it still kind of felt like a very circumstantial spot. Like how unlucky was he that his head just happened to be there?
Well, and not only that, but when the creeper comes later on, as he's basically trying to deal with the girl, and he kind of just keeps going into the vehicle. He probably forgets about his own trap, not realizing he's so close to it, and it basically impales him through the head. Proof that the creeper, as badass as he seems and as much a polished hunter as he seems, he can make an
I
error.
forgot I had that there.
Yeah, he can make a mistake just like anybody else, which helps you to think that this guy is not fully invincible because he can screw up. So that was another thing that was kind of neat overall.
It knocked an eye out, but it didn't really slow him down much.
Yeah, it never does. If you've seen these movies with the creeper, I mean, he's got some really strong regenerative powers where he can handle a lot of shit thrown at him. He's Wolverine's
he's like Deadpool and Wolverine, man.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, it takes a lot to kill this guy. Two suggests that it can be done, but you've really got to beat the snot out of him to even get there.
Oh yeah, you got to cut this guy down to nothing.
Yep. So yeah, there was all that pretty much, and
I personally love the beginning of the film when I was surprised it picks up not even right after the first film, but even sort of during it, because they're like, we've got Trish in the building right now. She's collapsed because she, like, what happened to her brother Derry. Her parents are coming to get her tomorrow morning, that's the ending of the first film. So the fact that it even picks up during the ending of the first film, and so they impound the Jeepers Creepers truck, and of course the creeper not far behind, he goes and gets his truck back. And what's cool is like they even know, the cops even know, like the hunters of the creeper, they're like, that car is not going to make it to the impound, man. Like, and it goes to the tow truck, which is taking away the creeper van, and it's just guarded by one driver who's driving the tow truck and one lady officer who surprisingly survived the whole film. Um,
Oh, we didn't see her die. She lived
I don't know. Like she was doing fine. Like
that. Oh, she was chasing the truck.
well, she was chasing him like on foot.
Oh, man.
Come back here, truck.
But yeah, like he gets out his axe, he cuts the chains off the truck slides down, and they get out of the car, and they immediately just look up, and there is the creeper just standing on top of his truck, looking badass as the truck drives off with him on top of it and staring them down. And I'm
Yeah,
just like,
something.
that is cool.
Yeah.
that was a nice touch.
He's just doing that like, what?
It really does give you a sense. He knows how tough he is. You know,
that,
yeah.
that was worth it for me alone, and that was at the beginning. That was badass.
Yeah, I find it very interesting too. Like he does know how tough he is, but he'll normally try and pick off people in smaller groups. Because I think he does have a limitation to, how much damage he can take, and he kind of knows that. So he picks people off in small groups, which is why I was hoping for the big group, beating the crap out of him in this film that just never materialized.
Yeah, and it's not just that he attacks smaller groups because he fears being vulnerable too much, but like the black guy said, he's trying to hide information. He destroyed his own church to make sure that less know about him. Like, the more people that know about him or live to tell the tale is more dangerous for him in the long run, because while he's active for 23 days straight with no sleep, there's 23 years where he is dormant, which gives anybody who survives and knows about him plenty of time to grab their bearings, learn what they can, and hunt him down.
If only they can find where he is.
Know about him is department.
Yeah, so that's probably why he doesn't want to attack large groups, because God forbid one of them survive.
Yeah.
True. Like he always attacks rural people.
So yeah, that's why he gets frustrated, and that's why his face separates and he gets really frustrated. That's the thing. In the first film, it only happened once. He had Derry by the throat, and he was surrounded by all the officers as they were looking at him like guns pointed at him, and he did the spreading face thing. And I really do think I really only think he does that when he's really frustrated.
Or
Like,
he doesn't know how he's gonna get through it.
because like it's like, well, I got to make an escape, but bad news, now more people know about me. And in the second film, when he does it again, when he's like, he has no legs anymore, like he crashed through a truck and he lost limbs, and now he's like minutes away from going back to sleep. One of his wings doesn't work, and he's in an arm lock with a black guy who's fighting for his life, and he's doing the frustration thing again, like, damn it, this is not how I expected this night to go.
Yeah.
And then in
But-
this film, he got shot with a Gatling gun, limped away. One of the girls that he captured escaped his truck and escaped him, and he tried to shuriken at her. He tried to harpoon her, missed.
He was kind of incapacitated at that point. He had a whole lot of damage to his head, so you can kind of understand why he got a little sloppy.
Exactly. So he's got Gatling gun wounds in his chest, and he's got a severe head wound, missing an eye, and he's chasing this girl down, failing. And then he comes up across a boarded sign that says, "We know who you are," and a nailed hand of him from 23 years ago. Fuck
But
this
that
day,
might-
man.
Yeah, that reminds me. That's actually a good thing that I wanted to visit. Why make that sign? Why would you announce to this? And I know you said for kind of an intimidation factor.
All over that sign.
Yeah, like to me, it would make more sense if you didn't let him know. Because if he knows that he's going to try and plan or avoid based upon the knowledge that he thinks you have. So to me, it would be better to have it be a surprise. And that's the other thing. How many people know about this? Well, by the end of this movie, one. There were only two. The black guy, he was dead by the end of it. So it's really just the old woman's account. And the old woman doesn't seem to be all there to begin with. So even if she relays information about this thing,
I think she's broken. To be honest, she don't give a crap.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So she may not even be that reliable when she talks about this thing. And they just gave up this hand when more people could have learned about it. I think it would have been a good idea to have more people learn about it. It just felt like more of a movie contrivance than anything that actually made sense.
It,
This
it,
way we can have it where only one person knows.
can the creeper even read thought? It's kind of a speculation that the creeper gains knowledge through people he eats. So that would boost his intelligence to an incredible degree, and that would explain why his truck is so damn powerful.
And then he actually knows how to, have and maintain a truck. Because that's one thing that's always kind of a question mark for me is like this guy, has a vehicle that's in operating order. He's got a custom license plate.
He can throw shurikens like a master ninja. He can throw.
How did he get into the DMV? That's the one thing I wonder. I actually haven't postulated this to William that maybe he has an accomplice, and I kind of would like that idea. But then again, he could also probably somehow fashion a license plate himself if he had the right tools somehow. So I really, you don't know. It's one of those things that I wonder.
Theoretically, would it be really hard to get like a sheet of metal, like use a chisel, like put in a license plate and paint it?
Is it doable? Yeah. It's one of those funny questions I have to ask. Did he stand in that line?
I would like an ominous
license, please.
I would like an ominous, creepy license plate, please. What are you gonna do? Say no?
Yeah.
In blood.
No, I do like the idea he has an accomplice, but it hasn't been supported anywhere really. So, that's just my wild speculation that doesn't really match.
So, if anything, like the film before it, the second film, we learn more about the creeper, but only through how he operates and what he can and can't do and how badass he really is. We don't really learn much more about his history. It's still pretty much the same. He's ancient. That's all we get, and we kind of already knew that.
Yeah. Really, you learn more about the truck, but not really him.
Yeah, we learn more about what the truck can do, and wow,
They can do a lot.
that truck is awesome.
Yes, one of the things we didn't mention is it kind of drops out like these little grenade things from the back. They're almost like homing grenades, which is neat. They don't explain it, obviously. How could they? But part of the fear is just, this shit ain't supposed to do that. What's it doing?
It's just, it seems like everything that's his has sort of a sentient thing. Like, even in the second film, that knife, which they used on him, which actually kind of made sense, because, like, you wonder, how did a Gatling gun not work on this guy? But a man-made harpoon was able to hurt him enough. It's like, well, it was using his own weapon, which flies a lot faster and is a lot more dangerous.
Yes, and I think that was the key to it, is that it was his own weapon partly. Whatever the hell he makes his weapons out of, it seems to be implied that they are really strong and durable.
Yeah, no kidding, man. Like, he blocked a shotgun with that thing.
Yep. Yeah, there was one scene where a guy fires a bullet, and I do like the fact that the guy was fairly far away from him when he took the shot, so it gives just a little bit of reaction time from this guy who seems to have very keen reflexes. So it doesn't even feel entirely out of the question that he can deflect a bullet. But yeah, there's this one scene a little bit later where he gets peppered with bullets because I think at the time he didn't think that the gun was going to be functional for him, which frankly I would have played a bluff for that anyway, made it seem like the gun couldn't go anywhere and then just turned it on him. I was hoping that's what the guy was doing, but no, the gun was actually stuck.
And even though he did get it to turn on him and he fired on him, didn't really work out that well.
Yeah. There was one other kind of cool scene, which I'll mention, because we're kind of picking it apart, but we should mention the cooler stuff too. There's this one scene where basically one of the male main characters who's with the female main character basically pulls up to this farm that they were at because they see the horses run off. And so they're getting there, and they notice all of a sudden that there are several people, and they're just under stuff. There's one that I think was like under a tractor, and several that were under a tanker. And they're like, "Well, what are you?" He just gets out like nothing's going on. What are you doing? It's like, go get help, go get the sheriff and call him and whatever. And he's like, what's going on? And they can't even get a straight answer. And you can see these guys are just terrified. They don't want to make their presence known at all. They're hiding under stuff. And you get the sense that's because the creeper, swoops in with his wings and carries people off. And so they're scared, just like if any bird was going to come and snatch you up, you seek cover. And I love the fact that he's sitting there and he actually calls the guy. He picks his cell phone. It's like, maybe I should call and ask him about this. Stop making noise.
And in the back window, you can see the creeper creeping up and like flipping over a car just to pull out one of the guys. And then of course he comes up to the kids and he plays with them with a sense of humor. Like he's got the blood on their windows and he's like using his finger to wipe it away and peek inside.
Yes, and the other thing is the creeper kind of picks out victims, and that's kind of made clear mostly in the second film, although the first one too. And in this one, you get the sense that he's interested in the girl for some reason. They don't say why.
I kind of thought why. It's because she's related to Kenny, who he killed 23 years
I guess that could be it. It's familiar scent, I guess, but I don't know if family reunion is enough of a reason to hunt people. So.
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
There's the idea of how the spirit is a part of him. Like he is a part of, whoever he absorbs through his hunting.
Maybe. There was another continuity error.
Which one?
In the first film, Derry and Trish do talk about a 23-year-old killing that happened during their car ride, and they talk about Kenny and Darla. And how it was a murder that happened 23 years ago on this highway, and that his girlfriend lost her head, and that nobody ever found out what happened to Kenny. And he was a varsity. He was at varsity. He was a high school. He had his ring on, like, because he was he was a football player or something. And when Derry goes to the creeper's basement and discovers like all the bodies that are stitched together, he finds Kenny and Darla, who are stitched together and preserved and hardened. And Kenny looks nothing like the ghost of Kenny that we see in this film.
Yeah, and I think unfortunately that's always the problem that you've got when you make the film a bunch of years later, and you want the ghost to kind of look like Kenny. You're limited by your acting and cast and who's going to show up for the film and what you can do with any CGI effects you've got. And it unfortunately felt like this movie is a little strapped. It doesn't have a big budget. So, a lot of the scares focused around the creeper and stuff around the truck, nothing too impressively CGI. So, yeah, that's my guess is it filters into that. Less continuity so much as they only had so much money to make this thing.
So, and it also just kind of brings the question, like, why would they go and cover the whole Kenny and Darla thing and not once mention Darla, his girlfriend, who lost her head?
I guess because she's dead.
Well, so was he, but that didn't seem to slow him down much.
It's just at that point, they're just a victim. They're one of the body count.
Pretty much. But yeah, it was just another continuity error. Like, that's kind of strange.
Yep. One of the things they do at the end of this film, by the way,
that whipping noise made so sense. Yeah. Okay. Two people are mentioning this. I think the Wild West era maybe was important because you do hear a whipping sound in their flashes, and Nick says the whipping noise made no sense. I am sorry, guys. I do not remember hearing any whipping.
Nor I. Doesn't mean it wasn't there. I didn't catch it.
I didn't catch it either. So, like,
or maybe
can you,
like a native.
Yeah, can you guys elaborate on that? Like, where was this whipping noise at? Because I don't remember that.
Well, while we're waiting for a response from them, one of the things I was also thinking about is like towards the very end of the film, they have the tie-in where the survivor character from the first film basically is writing down a story and basically says, I'm going to come get you, you son of a bitch, or come get me, you son of a bitch, something like that. And I mean, it's okay, but it's so clear that, I mean, that's a setup for the fourth movie. And I don't know. I would have liked to see the character in the movie a little bit more than just that. So
maybe, but it was nice to see the actor Gina come back to reprise her role as Trish.
Agreed.
Yeah, I didn't even expect to see her in the film. So even hearing her narrate at some points and coming back just to do that ending, that was really cool. So it's like, okay, now she's coming back with a vengeance. The whipping noise when they were getting the flashes during the hand vision scenes. I don't remember. Like I remember the hand vision scenes. I do not remember hearing any whipping.
Nor I, although again, it could be Wild West, but a whip can be anything. It could be
Yeah, like a
medieval
whip can be anything.
times.
That could go back to like chariot races.
Yeah, so that could be a bunch of, and they suggest it's ancient, so it would make sense that it's probably a little older than Wild West. My speculation and William's speculation seems to be that it's at least Middle Ages or possibly earlier. So,
Yeah, medieval
I mean,
times.
yes, we don't know
Or
for sure.
he could be Native American.
Because the deleted scenes in Jeepers Creepers 2, when Minx is having her sleeping visions, she's talking to Derry and she's going through the cornfield and it's showing knights in medieval style armor and they have shields and armor with embedded like symbols of the creeper, like they're going after him to kill him. So that suggests that yeah, from King Arthur days, like they were going after this guy.
Yeah, so that does seem to suggest that yeah, he's way old, and I don't know if the whip thing is related to that somehow, but you can figure it could be a torture chamber, a dungeon, anything like that.
Or maybe
I
he was
didn't catch it though, so good
a
catch on you
virgin
guys.
and just never died.
That's true. One of the other things I wanted to point out too, okay, that they have that scene where the police officer and I call him the black guy. I feel bad I don't know his name, but it's how I instantly identify him. They have that scene where they're kind of blown off the road, and that's where they kind of make a last ditch effort to kind of attack the creeper. Now, while the black guy is dealing with the creeper, okay, Gomer Pyle, which is what I'm naming the sheriff. He's like tried his first weapon, it hasn't worked. He's got a handgun. And he sees the creeper running towards this guy, and he never takes a shot, nor does he try and run. He just stands there and watches. And that just, to me, it's one or the other. You're either trying to kill this thing or you're trying to get away. But there is something about this particular sheriff that seems to suggest that he succumbs to inactivity. I think at one point he even mentioned that, he had the thing in his sights and he couldn't bring himself to shoot it. So, it's just a big problem with the sheriff, but it just really frustrates me. I'm like, the guy is useless so far.
Well, it's not like he hasn't tried. I mean, even when he was pointing at the creeper, he had a shotgun. He took a couple shots to him. The creeper blocked him with his axe. So when he pulls out the pistol, I imagine he's waiting for the creeper to come in close so he can shoot him point blank and not give the creeper enough reaction time to like block it. But it's never really shown just how much distance that the creeper has between him and the other guy. In fact, even the black guy was a lot further away than I thought he was, because you see the creeper running after him, and it takes him a while to get to him.
Sure. Well, you don't know because they also play with the motion and time for that. But I agree. It wasn't 10 feet away. But my thing is, at that point, the creeper's eyes are off him. He's no longer got the deflection problem that I would be able to see. Take a shot. I was expecting that. I really was watching that scene because it was slowing down. I was expecting a bullet to ring out, and it never did. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, Gomer Pyle, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, but it's also kind of acknowledged that the Gomer Pyle officer is a bit more frightened, because this is much bigger than he thought it would be. Like, he only found out about this one day ago. This is a monster. I wouldn't be thinking as clearly. I'm frightened. The fact that I'm shooting at this thing and it's not dying like every other human being and it's still coming after me is enough for me to pause and just kind of be stuttered and just watch.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about psychological blunders in horror films. They go hand in hand. At some point you have to be that person that goes, I told you not to go down in that basement, where they obviously didn't. It was a dumbass thing. It happens in horror movies. So I can forgive it somewhat, but I just have those moments where I'm like, really? Come on.
But it was funny and also upsetting to see how Black Guy got it. And I was like, oh, that did not end well.
Did you think it was going to end well? Did you really?
Well, usually when it comes to main characters, you usually kind of think that their deaths are a little bit more theatrical. But his was just like axe to the face.
Well, it's funny because early on in the movie, I figured out in my head who the survivors were going to be. And I already figured it was going to be the girl, although I was thrown for the girl because she was abducted from
Yeah,
the
like I was
vehicle,
like, you know what? She's a goner. Nobody who there has never been a survivor who's been taken and off by this
which
guy.
is what I thought. So again, good on the director and the writer for kind of twisting that, because we weren't used to seeing stuff like that. But admittedly, like early on, I had pegged her surviving because normally when they give you a whole lot of character background for somebody, they're normally the survivors. Not always, but generally they are. So they had that. They had the old woman, and I figured those two were going to be the survivors, and I figured the sheriff was going to survive,
Oh,
just
question
because.
from J Chick Batman. Did he have like some kind of magnet on his axe? No. Like with anything with the creeper, be it his van, be it a piece of him, an arm, a leg, or any one of his weapons, they
Magic.
yeah they are yeah there is a form of magic that goes to them. They are kind of sentient in that they sort of react the way he wants them to. So if
Yeah,
so if he throws something, he can just kind of like use the force and call it back to him.
that's the best way to explain it, absolutely. Because the bombs out of the back of his truck, there's no scientific way we can really explain this stuff. So you got to kind of go with,
There's magic
you
involved.
there's something supernatural that we don't understand. Because otherwise, how else can you explain it?
Yeah, you can't.
That's what I'm getting at. I certainly have not come up with an explanation. Even trying to suggest, well, maybe he's got tech that's a little bit above him. Yeah, I can't quite get it there.
Like,
you know,
I mean,
Unless it's like heat seeking or something like that, a heat seeking bomb. But again, it's the bomb rolls well past and 180s, and that just doesn't fit for me for being a heat seeking kind of anything. So no idea.
yeah, like that truck is far more souped up than I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because when those grenades came out, I'm like, are you kidding me? This thing is hooked up with grenades.
Yeah. Well, the best part is you didn't know for sure what that was, but you were pretty damn sure that was a bomb.
Yeah,
You're
as
like
soon, as soon as
95.
I saw it, as
Yeah.
soon as I saw it and I saw it go past the car, I'm like, no, that's not done. And then it starts
Yeah.
coming back, and I'm like, oh my god, it's a remote
That's the
bomb.
good freak out moment. When that thing reverses course, that's where you oh shit. It's like,
Oh, you
oh,
better shoot that thing.
yep. And of course, I'm glad that Gomer Pyle had a smart moment and decided to shoot that before it rolled back up on the vehicle.
Because wow, that thing was coming.
Yep.
That actually would have gave me some pause. Like, okay, maybe we shouldn't follow this thing so
Yeah,
closely.
back off, go another way or something like that. Maybe he'll let us go. Probably not, but it's worth a shot. Call off the attack.
Like,
Especially once they got to the other guy and they couldn't warn him
Like,
to
here's the
not
thing:
do.
why can't they get in some choppers to keep an eye on him from the sky?
Well, that's kind of my thing. They got law enforcement involved. They know this is a big deal, and I'll grant you, it just happened the day before.
it's
Trying to get SWAT or something on a mysterious creature that nobody sees probably isn't the easiest thing in the world. So where is it? We have no pictures of it, so
It is true.
so
It still is in the '90s for this time period,
yeah.
but it's still honestly there's probably a good reason why they can't have anything flying going after him because if he's got a souped up truck mobile that can take out just about anything, he's probably got something ready to take out helicopters. Hell, he could probably just get out of the van, fly up there, and disable them.
He may, but like I like my explanation better that trying to get that kind of force together when they've just found out about this in a couple days and can't really produce any evidence of the thing probably would be a hard sell. So I think it's where the locals are mostly trying to deal with it more than anything bigger.
Let's see, Jiffley, the chosen one. The creeper was hella advanced for his age. He had nitrous and shit for the truck, as we saw in the first one. I'm telling you, man, that truck was awesome in this film.
Yeah,
I love
they,
that truck.
like even
they
though
did add a lot of stuff. It does kind of suggest the idea that he may gain knowledge from the victims that he eats. It's never explicitly spelled out, I don't think, but it's the best explanation we can find, and why he seeks out certain people. Maybe they got a good spleen or good eyes, whatever it is, that will help him out. And maybe for some, it's a happy accident he gains the knowledge he does, or maybe he seeks them out for the knowledge. Who knows? It's never fully explained.
He's got Bruce Wayne knowledge to be able to build all this stuff.
but you know what though? I would have loved the creeper to be a drunk.
You would love the creeper to be a drunk. How would that be fun?
Like for one thing, he's always in some sort of Doesn't feel anything. He's numb to everything. He's an
uh,
ethereal being that hunts people. So I mean, it kind of works out.
I don't know if he's numb to everything, but he certainly reacts when he gets hurt, and he's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, he feels pain. I mean, that's the one thing you do see is that when he actually really gets wounded, he feels it. So,
Oh yeah, because
not,
he shrieks. You hear him shriek.
yeah. So that's again, that's some comfort to something that seems like the thing that wouldn't die.
He a zombie? No, he's not a zombie.
I mean, we don't know for sure what he is, but the explanation seems to be he's a
That he is a
supernatural
zombie,
being.
and they said that.
Um, yeah, that can heal really well and seems to have really keen reflexes. He's essentially a hunter. He's a supernatural hunter. That's how I would define him.
He's like the Predator, but scarier.
Yeah.
Oh
So yeah,
man.
Cool, right? Cool. Nice.
So yeah, Jeepers Creepers 3. Um, I think it was
I got.
it was worth
Yeah,
the wait for me.
yeah, and I would kind of like to see the fourth one when it eventually comes out. Um, I do think they have those continuity problems, but the one thing I will admit is tying it to two in such a sloppy way isn't going to affect it as much, given that we're moving on to four essentially, and we're going ahead of two. So
It is true, but
it,
it was such a weird decision. Like I would love to ask the director personal, like maybe through an
yeah,
email or something. Like,
yeah,
okay, we know that you are the writer and the director of this. I gotta know because it makes no sense to me. What
yeah.
is
Did nobody work exactly? Did nobody working on the film? Did no test audience kind of ask that question? How does that make any sense? Because it would have been such a quick edit. You're right. This is a dumb idea, and then just show the
You
bus
guys
driving
already
by with high
mentioned the
schoolers.
bus.
Yeah, I know. It makes no goddamn sense why they connected like this kid who was a survivor in this movie and now he's one of the kids that was on the bus in the second one. That makes no goddamn sense.
Well, and even then, it's not a guarantee that he died because in the second movie, not everybody on the bus died. A whole bunch of kids scattered.
Yeah,
So,
not everybody died.
And plus, at the same time, like, I mean, even the one dude that got the axe to the face, he said that, like, if you scatter, there's a chance that you can survive.
yes.
Because he can't get all of you. Well,
Well, he
maybe
probably
he could.
can, but he's still got limits. Like he's really fast and he can fly and he can swoop down on you. But his scent, being able to smell you out, only works, I imagine, for so long. And you can cover a lot of ground if you just scatter to the winds.
Let's see. What Walter says it was whack. He was disappointed. I don't see how. Like, I'm a big Jeepers Creepers fan going way back from the first and second one when they were brand new. I got exactly what I wanted. I got a movie with the creeper and he wrecks your shit. And I was enjoying every minute of it. No, not all of my questions got answered. Like, no, we don't learn about his history. They hint at it and we know that they know. And yeah, there were some things that I wish we got more clarification on. But for a third film that we knew was going to take place between this and the second film, I got exactly what I thought we were going to get, and I am really happy. We got a movie where the creeper is being the creeper, and he is not holding back. He goes
Yeah.
all out, fucks everybody up. We get to see the truck, and the truck is awesome, and it sets it up for the fourth film.
We get a
Yeah.
stupid one.
Do you all think he will die in the fourth film?
Well,
Should
good
he die
question.
in the fourth?
You'll get close.
The problem that when you consider film franchises like Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street, there are movies that eventually kind of kill off the villain, but that never stays. It never sticks. There's always a way around it. So I'm expecting something probably along those lines, where either he will be killed but not really be dead, or he will really be dead but they'll find some way to reverse it. It's what the franchises do because they want to do another film.
I mean, because isn't it possible? Don't you think that they could keep him contained? Like, if he was literally locked in a prison cell, he would probably be stuck there because he's not. He doesn't appear to have super strength.
Like, his dad does.
You know,
Brotherhood
I know that we're
just by freaking shaking hands.
You know, I know that there are some areas of our country that are against the death penalty, but I'm pretty sure everybody for that creeper will go, kill that son of a bitch.
Like if you
So,
lock him, if you lock him in a maximum security prison, he gets no freedom or free time whatsoever. He's only oh
He
he
never
lived oh
goes
he
on
lifted a car.
someone's
Okay,
stool.
you know what I accept that he did it. He lifted a car. Okay, he does have super strength, but
yes.
he doesn't have super strength. Like he's not Superman.
No, he can probably lift several thousand pounds, no problem. Uh, but at the same time, yeah, can you lift something, the size of a mountain? Not that I can ever see. They don't make it that extreme.
He could probably get through bars. See, I don't know if you've been to a maximum facility prison in today's times. We don't have jail cells with bars anymore.
Generally that's true. They don't have windows that go to the outside, at least for the walls where the cells are.
Yeah, like in maximum security, you're surrounded by nothing but solid brick and solid doors that
Okay, but to be fair, could this guy not just punch out a brick wall?
we've never
Okay, then.
we
Well, it was never proven.
we've never seen him do it, but
You know what? I'd place my money on the creeper.
Individual strength.
yeah, he broke through the bar. He broke through the bars in the prison in the first film. Yes, he did not break through the walls.
No, but I would still like if I was a betting man, I'll take those odds.
Anything to slow him down. Like, you just throw muffins at him. If you would just stop to eat it for a while.
Unless you put ground up body parts in those muffins, I don't think he's going to stop.
Because like I'm just thinking like, okay, if we were going to detain this guy and not kill him, could
You know,
it be done?
I would be for the argument. Don't even waste your time. What are you going to get from it? Nothing but, another massacre.
No,
So
nothing, like even if you do have him there, nothing but very gross stares. He's just gonna look at you, and yeah, that'll be fun for 23 days.
he'll just, he'll spit on the window and draw a little thing indicating he's going to come get you as soon as he can. That's what he's going to do.
Yeah, he just makes it clear on the window. I am gonna eventually get out of here. Maybe not today.
Yeah.
Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe not within the next 23 days. But one of these days, you guys are gonna drop the ball, and you, my friend, are going to be a delicacy, and I'm going to savor it.
That's the thing. Realistically, jailing this guy, it's like jailing Jason or Freddy. You don't do it. You can't do it. So I don't think that's going to happen.
I think if Andy Dufresne can go through a jail cell with a spoon, the creeper could probably punch his way through cement.
That's what I'm saying.
Fingers.
That's
Okay, it was only just a theory. I'm not saying that they should
I
actually
know.
detain the. Like, if it was possible, would they and how would they?
I was going to say I don't think it's possible is my answer, and so I don't think it will ever happen. Because yeah, certainly no normal jail.
Let's kill him.
It's pretty much it. Well, which brings us to a point.
Them trying
That's
to give him the death penalty and not working.
yeah,
Like, he just laughs.
yeah, because he probably thinks it won't kill him. It's like, go ahead.
Like, it'll hurt,
So, yeah.
but that's all it's gonna do.
But this brings me to a criticism. It's not even of this movie, but I gotta point it out for folks who have seen the second movie. If you've seen the second movie, which is where the fourth one's going to go into, you do realize that the Creeper, for all intents and purposes, is, vulnerable, stopped. They could probably kill him if they tried. And yet the really tail end of, Jeepers Creepers 2 seems to suggest that there's a guy just waiting for him, like it's going to happen, didn't manage to kill him off. And that just feels somewhere between weird and dumb.
Chick Batman asks, can you kill him, though? The answer is yes. You can most definitely, certainly kill him.
Well,
The delays is that it's not easy to do because he's never in an area that allows you to have that convenience. Like like Nate says, he really does stick to rural countryside areas where there's not a lot of.
He's never walked around a city.
Yeah, you'll never see him in a city.
Yep, which is kind of my point. That he does have some vulnerability. But that said,
he finds you.
yeah, But he is a movie monster. The thing is, you don't fully define what he is. So saying, can he be killed? I don't even want to say yes because I don't know the rules with him.
Well, like at the end of the second film, it's like if you see him, it's like you should think that yeah, he could totally be killed. He's very vulnerable. He can be beaten, he can be cut up, and he can be badly injured. And when he's dormant and you've got his body, you could throw that asshole in acid. You could grind his body up into nothing, and you could just spread him into the wind, or make him a part of cement and make him part of a road. Good luck coming back from that.
I agree, and that's always one of the things about somebody being invulnerable, invincible, whatever, where they're not going to die. If you can dice up the body, they kind of can,
And actually,
So
yeah, this movie proved it because what happened 23 years ago? Some guy got lucky with a machete, cut off his hand, and it was only because the creeper killed that guy anyway that he was able to get his hand back. But yeah, they were able to separate that hand and bury it, and it stayed there until dug up, and the creeper found it and broke it. You could
but
probably
see,
do the same thing with the rest of him.
the hand was disembodied and still kind of acted on its own. So to me, it's almost like a starfish. If you split it just right, hell, you could end up with two creepers.
Like, yeah, like maybe, but at the same time, it's like, well, if you cut him up and separate him, yeah, it might not kill him. The pieces might still be sentient, might be acting, but clearly they can't do anything by themselves without you directly doing something. So separate him, can him, put him into pieces, and make sure those pieces are as far away from each other as possible. Problem solved.
Well, I agree that even if he's invincible and vulnerable, he's still, for all intents and purposes, dead. Because what can he do? So yeah, I guess he can be dealt with is a better way to say it. I could
Yeah,
say
yeah,
he
correct.
can be dealt with.
Anthony Garcia says, remember the first movie they said that he's eaten too many hearts for him to die? Well, that was a guess from Giselle. But at the same time, while it might be true, yeah, he might not be dead, you will contain him. Because, like, the way that we just said, by spreading his body parts, locking him up, making sure those body parts do not connect with each other, you've pretty much beaten him. Those body parts might still be moving, but he can't do anything. You've won.
Yeah, I just like to re-clarify it that he can be dealt with for that. But you know what else I found interesting in this movie that I actually liked? Okay, movie number one, they have like a psychic talking about the 23rd day, 23rd month. Second movie, girl inexplicably gets psychic powers on the bus. There was none of that in this one. In this one, there was not that because it just felt like it was not necessary every single time. It felt like it was forced in Jeepers Creepers too.
In this one they sort of have it with like the whole visions thing with touching the hand, which you could probably make arguments about in of itself. Which whatever.
That's something that you trigger by touching the hand. It doesn't just magically strike somebody. It's never made sense. It's like the Stephen King psychic child thing where it's just like it just happens. No need to explain it.
Taggart stabbed him in the heart in part 2, but it was too late to kill him because his time was up. But see, that's kind of the thing. Like usually when the creeper's time's up, he's done with his job and he goes back to his lair or one of his many hiding places and he hides out for 23 years so he can do it all over again. In the second film, he couldn't do that. He was really at the mercy. He was really at the mercy of the people surrounding him, and unfortunately, the people surrounding him were idiots and decided to make a quick buck out of his corpse. And so they stitched him together, hung him up in their barn, and charged $5 for everybody just to see it. Only for them to say, "Oh, that thing's so incredibly fake." And 23 years later, he's still hanging up in the barn with the old man sitting there with his old ass 23-year-old makeshift man-made harpoon gun, ready to fight this thing again. Get the hell out of here!
Hey, he made $5 off that. And isn't that what's important?
Like, when I saw that was like, eat my cock.
One other thing I should point out. Okay, that truck doesn't look 23 years old. So either he got it this time, or if he did get it 23 years ago, I mean, it would have to be in that time somewhere. Because it doesn't just magically have a truck on that first day.
Well, the director in the original movie, in the special secrets thing, he did say that the truck is part of him. Like because actually, yeah, in the first movie's like commentary, he says in the first movie the creeper has 3 forms that you see him as. You see him as the truck, you see him as the scarecrow, and you see him as the gargoyle.
Oh, if that's the case, that answers my question about the harpoon firing from the truck. It's essentially the creeper.
Yeah.
Okay, so that one's sort of answered.
Yeah, so technically he says that he's not technically driving the truck. He is, but the way Victor Salva said it in the special features is that he is the truck.
He climbs inside himself.
Pretty much. So I'm just like okay, Victor Salva said it. All right. I'll
uh,
take it.
you know, at some point there are some things you just got to go to the directors and writers and go, okay.
Anthony Garcia says, "Do you think he's a demonic force? What the heck do you think he is?"
I
Um,
lean
I
that's an
think.
explanation myself. Yeah.
Like, what do you think he is?
I honestly think it's exactly that. Is that, you know, he got some powers from some mystic pact with, like, you know, take your pick, the devil, an evil spirit, something like that, a long time ago. And so he essentially was human and is now this demonic hunter. You know, he probably made a deal to get those powers for something he needed back in his timeline when he first existed, and it essentially corrupted him. And now he's just this, you know, this bloodlust hunter that basically needs to feed for every 23 days. Maybe
Like,
as a
what? Like,
bargain.
actually, wouldn't it be kind of interesting? Like, way back in the medieval days, like he made a wish or a pact. Like, I want to become the greatest hunter in the world. Um,
Exactly.
and he's like, okay, we'll make you the greatest hunter in the world, but it's a wish
Exactly.
that you'll probably.
Totally calypsoed.
Yeah, pretty much. Like Twisted Metal, he got calypsoed.
Yep. And that, honestly, if I were the one to have to make a backstory for this creeper, I'd probably go in that direction. Do you know what I think is always only as relevant as it applies to me or what I can tell you, because it doesn't matter. It goes back to the writer, the director, whatnot. But yeah, that's where I would go with it.
Let's see. What? He has different forms? Well, yes and no. Like, the creeper is only ever the creeper when you see him. He dresses like a man, which looks like a scarecrow, and as Giselle said in the first movie, he dresses like a man, but only to hide that he's not.
Yeah.
And when he takes off all his clothes, you pretty much see him. You see him for what he is.
He's a demon.
He's a gargoyle like demon that you would see perched up at the top of buildings, hunched at the corner of a building, looking menacing. He looks like one of
How you
those.
doing?
Yeah, he looks like one of those scary gargoyles at the top of buildings. He'd fit right in with the Disney gargoyles.
Except for the fact that he, you know, kills everybody and eats them. It's
That'd be
a
a
bit of
fun.
a problem.
That would be a fun fight. The gargoyles versus the creeper.
Oh God, Damona's got a new love interest. No.
Nate says the creeper. Actually, it's kind of an interesting thing. Like, they got 23 days to find the creeper, but the creeper's got one night every night to try. I mean, one day to like every day to find them while they're stoned.
The creeper can
Yeah.
move during the day. He can just break all the gargoyles.
I know. It's like he can move during the day. He can find where the gargoyles are, break their asses.
Smashy smashy with a brick.
It probably wouldn't be hard for the creeper to defeat the gargoyles, like considering he is not stupid.
Yeah. But no, like I said, Demona would love that. You're out to kill and eat humanity? Oh, please.
Oh, please! Like she wouldn't be on that list. He'd consider
That's
it.
what I'm saying. Well, then, I don't know. Probably she turns human half the day. That'd be a little bit of a problem for her. But
Well, she's in trouble. He starts smelling.
yeah. So, I mean, yeah. Overall, it was better than I thought it was, because I got to tell you, William's the one who he's into this. He's very gung ho about this. He loves this stuff, and he said, you know, I'd like for you to go and see this film, and so of course I did, and I went in kind of going, I don't know if I'm going to like it that much. And my overall conclusion is, as a monster, you know, as a monster movie where the monster is supposed to just kind of hunt down the people and you enjoy the ride, it's great. In terms of tying it to its own continuity, no, they did not do that well. Like I said, I can pull it apart like string cheese,
Like
but
it's strange because you know that Victor Salva and whoever the hell else he's got involved in the mythos of this creature, they know how this creature works in and out, and to them this probably makes sense. But to us, because there are so many loose ends and so many missing pieces, it's like, okay, we really got to know what's up in order for some of this to make sense. But it's not just the creeper. There are some continuity errors that are just like, I kind of want to go to him and be like, dude, what were you thinking? Like, I've seen your other Jeepers Creepers movies, and I can pick this shit out.
yeah.
They're too big to ignore, though.
Let's see. G Checkman Batman says, I want to go more realistic, so I would say that maybe it's a creature that survived the test of time and that there may have been others. People worshipped them until they found their weaknesses.
It's a much more natural explanation for that one, that they just existed, and he just happens to be the only one that they know of that still exists.
He's the Dragonborn.
Yeah. But the one thing I was thinking about what you just said, I worry that it suffered from like Matrix syndrome or George Lucas syndrome, which is that, they come up with an idea of what their little universe is, and then they have too long to sit and plan and think about it, and they add so much crap that it contradicts itself. That's kind of what I worry happened a little bit.
It's very possible, but it's just like, dude, you've only had 2 movies. Like, you should know these films in and out. You should know how your continuity works. You should know what you can play with and what you shouldn't do. And just, God, the biggest problem is like I can actually forgive Kenny for looking different than his corpse in the first film.
Yeah.
But the whole like putting this kid on the bus for the second film, what the hell, man?
And not only that,
That totally
no,
destroys
no offense.
continuity.
Yeah, no offense to that actor who did it, but that kid's got so many freckles, I would never forget him.
Oh yeah,
So,
like the freckles on this kid. I was just like, yeah, there's no way he was on that bus.
It's either a
exactly.
birthmark or freckles.
Yeah, this kid got some
It
serious
was
freckles.
more like a
He
birthmark than
does.
freckles, to be honest.
So yeah, as a monster movie, I thought it was great because you get to see exactly what you think you're gonna see. You see the creeper, and he's being the creeper. He's wrecking people's shit to the extreme. It's a fun ride to watch. It's
I'll
definitely
agree
not a
with
movie
that.
to take seriously.
Yep.
Like
It doesn't have the budget to be taken seriously.
it doesn't have the budget to be taken seriously.
That, unfortunately, the director tying it to his other movies just doesn't succeed at it. So yeah, you can't take it seriously for that. But is it a fun ride? Yeah, yeah, it is.
Yeah, and coming from him, that's scary. Jeepers Creepers 1, it was a great horror movie. Of course, critics, you want to know, that's always a thing of itself. Critics just don't seem to like horror movies. I don't think they get it.
Like,
They
people
well, they
get
generally
knowing
don't.
that it's a horror
Like, when
movie.
has a critic ever just came out and said, you know what, this horror movie is
Oh
amazing?
shit.
Like, if you can go on.
Exorcist, Drag Me to Hell. Exorcist and Drag Me to Hell are the two ones I know of that are
It's like calling a
examples where
magic
critics
trick.
rated
You're
them
never
very
gonna be
highly.
amazed by the magic trick.
Yeah, I mean, because like with any of the classic horror icons, is there any Nightmare on Elm Street, Jason, Halloween movie
No,
that has done exceptionally? And yet
Halloween
these,
the first one, maybe the Halloween the first one. I would need to check to be sure, but I think that was reviewed well.
and yet all of these characters have stood the test of time and have become such horror iconic movie legends that we love to see on camera. So clearly there is something that the critics just don't get that we as people just love to see.
And it's not just this genre. Like ones like comedies sometimes have the same thing. Comedies are never taken very seriously by critics or award ceremonies or whatnot. It's not what they're looking for.
Yeah, so
But
I sometimes I think they get the wrong people to do the reviews of certain things. Kind of like how they got the guy who did the Cuphead review, who was absolutely terrible at video games.
Well,
yeah,
it's not that he
It's
was like terrible at what he does. Like he knows how to play video games. It's just that I don't know. He played it like he was like a learning AI.
it's like I'm not gonna bring in Leonard Maltin to review a horror movie because like the dude has such high standards. Like you want somebody who is well in tuned to the genre and can tell you on like what makes this a fun horror movie. Even if it's not their type of horror movie, they can acknowledge that this movie does exactly what fans of this particular monster would want to see. They want to see the monster and they want to see him be awesome.
true. But then again, Leonard Maltin, he does review horror movies. It's just, if you're really looking at the film and saying, is this something I'm going to like? You're not going to look at Leonard Maltin, really. That's why I said one of the things I did is I looked on Rotten Tomatoes and I looked at, like, how'd the audience like it? And like I said, the cult following is going to go the first day. But,
Is the
uh,
best part. Like I mean, you could be a critic and everything like that. Yeah, sure, people will follow your opinion. Yeah, but I mean, what it is at the end is that does the audience like it and is it successful? It's like the same thing with artwork. Is it successful in doing what it is needing to be doing, like sending a message? Yeah, I think it's actually it's setting out to be. You know?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
because yeah, I mean you really can't judge a movie for doing something that you didn't like that it didn't do when the movie was trying to do something that it set out to do. It's like, oh, for example, going back to the video games, like I was giving a review for the video game Attack on Titan for the PlayStation 3. And I thought it was a really good Attack on Titan video game because when it comes to the show, the game delivered on exactly what you wanted to do. You're able to effectively swing around from buildings and attack these titans the way you see it done in the show, and it does its job very well. You can't you can't harp on this game for not being like Breath of the Wild. Like it's not open world. It's not allowing me to explore this. Like that's not fair.
It's not GTA, and that's
Like
why.
you can't harp on this game for not being like a Grand Theft Auto game when that's not what its goal is.
Well, absolutely. You can't judge a fish's ability to climb a tree. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, that's another
It's
good
not
way to
just
say it.
his feet.
Yep.
That's
Fish too.
Anthony Garcia says or asks, will there be a fourth installment? Others say we're pretty much going to have to wait to find out. Like if the sales are there, um, we might. I mean, they've already got a script for it, and they've
Yeah, they
already
got plans for 'em.
yeah the ending of this movie sets up for it. So I would like to see them get an okay on it. However, because of all the boycotting and the protests, Victor Salva might have to go.
Yep. Now, we actually haven't talked about that too much, but I will point out one thing. Um, the
As a
director is
writer,
kind of the
though, he
creator.
set down the framework, though, which is what
Yeah.
I like. You know?
Yeah. But that's my thing. The director is kind of the creator for this. So if you really try and remove him from the project, you are kind of killing off the creativity. You know, you're giving it to somebody else. Not necessarily a bad thing, but there's a lot of risk involved. So just something to keep in
You
mind.
have him as a consulting.
Yeah, honestly,
director.
that's what I would do. I was like, you know what? Unfortunately, Victor, we can't have your name on this thing. We're gonna have to take you off of
Well,
it.
like, he
But
would be
under the
honored.
under the table,
Yeah.
we will allow you to consult and even be a writer on this thing. But you're gonna have to work with somebody else because we're sorry, but your name carries heat, and the industry cannot have that.
Yeah. Like, we'll pay you for your time.
Yeah,
but,
we'll pay you, but you're gonna have to pretend that you had nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
But
Like,
if you think about it, to the people that have a problem with it, if they ever got wind of that, or if his name shows up in the credits, it's going to be the same thing. So
Well, they're just gonna have to like I said, make sure his name is not part of the movie at all. That he gets no credit for. So there's nothing on the
like,
physical
no matter
medium
what, though, the
to
guy's gonna
suggest
get,
that.
like, you know, what he's kept on getting. You know?
Like there's nothing that's gonna stop that. But at the end of the day, like you're just gonna have to take it on
He
good
has to
faith.
lay in the
Like
bed
whatever.
they
yeah,
made, you know?
Yeah.
No matter what.
Let's see. Gravity Demon. I think the Creeper is someone who wanted immortality.
that's
That's
certainly
another like
yeah.
maybe. Let's see. Anthony Garcia. They should at least give us more information on his origin. Yeah,
Yes.
that's something
Yeah,
that I was
yeah, yeah.
hoping that we would have gotten this film, and they teased it, but they didn't tell us.
I think
Which is
the
what I
film,
didn't like.
you know, they set the idea of his emotional context towards it, which is nice. But I think most of the information in expose is going to happen in the final one. But I
Yeah.
don't know if it's going to be the climax in which we want.
It seems
Sure.
like it might be the climax because I don't think there's a lot of leverage to continue beyond a fourth one, assuming we even get that far.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I know.
But yeah, for this one, I was just like, give us a tidbit. Give us a couple of little things that we can use. You don't want to reveal your whole hand for the creeper, but give us some idea.
He's
And
ancient.
they did. Yeah. I'm sitting there. I'm like, man, you have all this time before you're going into battle, and that's what you tell the guy? How useful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
He's ancient. We knew that.
Thank you, Captain Obvious.
He's been on the job for a while.
To me, that felt like a sloppy writing thing, too. You know, I know they don't want to give too much away, but they could have given something.
It's like trying to smack a superhero movie together, you know? They don't want to have superhero Spider-Man 3 syndrome.
Too much going on.
Yeah, like, freaking
I get that.
villains? Really? Really?
Do you want the whole origin story, or do you want a movie right now where you just get the creeper doing creeper things?
But even then,
I guess I was satisfied enough.
yeah, you don't need to give the whole origin story. Give a way or two that he might be vulnerable. That would be relevant.
Like, can we kill him? Yes. All right, good enough.
Well,
That would be a start.
I
Yeah.
mean, he has never really showed fear until it said, "We know about you."
Has he shown fear? I don't know. Depends on how you read that Darth Vader scene in there.
Well, yeah, like he never shows fear, but he does have expressions on his faces that suggest that time to go.
Yeah. Yep. I am at risk somehow, and therefore I should get the hell out of here.
So yeah, guys. Other than that, I can definitely say that I enjoyed the film. I got exactly, well, not. I got for the most part what I wanted out of this film. I got to see the creeper doing awesome things, looking awesome, riding away on his van on top of it while it goes away, just
Being bullshit.
staring down officers, just being badass. I got to see him kill and take a lot of people. You got to see the inside of his truck. You got to see how the truck operates, all the crazy things the truck can do, like him getting in and out of it, the way he operates around it. You got to see the creeper do so much in this film that I can't understand how some of the people that we were watching before this were just utterly bitching, which sounded like they were really just kind of jaded by the director. And
Yeah, they let that color them before they went in, so they were looking for stuff to find wrong. For example, there was this one guy who was complaining about the truck, and he's like, it's got that harpoon and it's got that stuff. Where was it in the first movie? And I'm like, well, here's the thing. That's for vehicles or things following behind the vehicle, which did not happen in the first movie because that's where the bombs drop, that's where the harpoon is. So that's not a problem. So it felt like he was trying to nitpick stuff that didn't even fit.
yeah, it's like and besides, he's only using that stuff to either get away and or take down something in the immediate way. He's not gonna freely willy nilly use that stuff because that's gonna get unnecessary attention. So
Yeah, so
did you
that's
know?
part of why we need
Yeah,
this.
Chick asked, "Did you notice what happened to his hand though?" Well, he destroyed it.
He did, and I think that was out of anger, frustration, fear. Like he knows that that's kind of a window to apparently get information from him.
It
So it
turned
seems
into
just
it turned into like some mystic dust, and since the hand didn't decay after all the years, uh, it couldn't be from being old.
I chalk some of that up to the fact that the creeper has so much strength in his hands that essentially where anything else would have had trouble destroying his hand, he was just able to break it into bits.
Well, it happened because like he willed it to
Yeah,
some degree to be
Maybe.
destroyed.
he used the truck in the first movie to scare people on the road, and that's all.
Yeah.
And that's all he needed the truck to do because he smells fear, and that's how he dictates whether or not he wants something out of that person. He's not going to
Yeah.
go out of his way, and the horn on that truck is enough to scare somebody. In fact, people jumped as soon as she triggered that chain. Like, oh
I
god.
mentioned when I was talking about the girl being a dumbass, I forgot that part. That's where she was a dumbass, sitting there trying to find a way out of the truck. What does this do? To even a person who knows nothing about the creeper, you would think that's probably a horn.
Don't. Oh, and then she asks, "Okay, what does the horn do?"
Makes noise so that you know they're coming. Lady, are you this stupid? Maybe we need to put you back in that bag so you don't hurt yourself.
Like,
So yeah, it's
I did think it was a little forced to have the leather jacket killed off so fast, even though his head was in a bad place at a bad time, because it did seem like he was learning, because he's just cause he'd already been in there long enough to see that the creeper just kind of doesn't know that they're alive, and he just like nobody goes in or out but he does, and like he's not checking to see if we're dead. He doesn't seem too bothered by it. It seemed like he was kind of learning something, so just to immediately like kill him off like 5 seconds later, it's like, oh well.
but that's the thing is, when you're learning about a dangerous rumor situation, guess what? You're still running the risk you're going to die as you poke around and try and find a way out. He took a risk, it didn't pay off. He thought maybe the passenger side, he said like maybe the front doors are okay. He didn't have any knowledge that it was otherwise.
Oh well.
Yeah. Fortunately, he made the dumbass mistake so that, not even dumbass mistake, he made the mistake so the dumbass girl could live.
And again, like there is a part of me that I hate I hate this cliche in horror movies. I hate Peter
Peter
Pan.
Pan. God damn it! I knew you were going there.
Because Nate just asked it in the background. Like, I hate this cliche, and this is a horror movie trope that has haunted me. Like, in a way, it's like you can call sexist.
Yeah.
How come men, if you have a dick, surviving a horror movie for you is almost impossible. It's always the lone female who gets to survive the whole movie and stand triumphant over the monster. She gets to live and tell your tale about how you get to help her survive. Oh, screw you. Like,
Sometimes it's a couple. The girl always survives. The guy or somebody that survives with them is rare, but it does happen. But it's not that the guy survives and the girl dies. I don't think I've ever seen that.
and that sucks. Is I was watching a shark movie. It wasn't Jaws, but it was some of the.
Sharknado.
No, it wasn't Sharknado. It's one of the 1,000 shark movies that are out there.
Deep Blue Sea. We'll just start naming them.
One of the 1,000 shark movies that are out there, where a group of people are in a boat and somehow it gets lost out to sea and they have no idea where they are. And so what ends up happening is it's not even a boat. I think it's something that they end up having to ditch it, and they all start swimming in one direction. There's one male character who is really intelligent and is pretty much sticking around the whole movie while everybody else is getting picked off. And eventually it comes down to him and one female who hadn't been really doing much in the entire time. He gives his life so she can survive. And I'm like, that's really not fair. I mean, he was smart enough to earn his victory. And he.
Well, no. The dumbass female must survive and she must lose her clothes. Because that happened in this one too.
And that's a misconception. Not all black people die in these movies. Although the black person in this movie did die.
This one did. Bad example for this one.
the black guy in this movie died, and the white person got to go. But
No. The black guy died alongside another white person.
That's true. Gomer Pyle lived. You know what? We're not making any favors by talking about this movie for the tropes.
Yeah, like not all black people die. Like in Anacondas, the black guy lived.
Yeah.
I hate these MF and snakes in this MF and blood.
Samuel L. Jackson's just going to live.
Unless it's in
He gets his purple lightsaber. He lives. It's Samuel Jackson. He fucking lives.
but he didn't live in Star Wars.
That's true. But the point is, he got his purple lightsaber. That's what he wanted. That's what he asked for. He got his purple lightsaber.
And he lost his hand, and he got electrocuted and thrown out a window. And there was
Didn't see that one coming.
and there was another movie. I think the movie's called The Abyss, where he's like, first we're gonna get this thing repaired, and then a shark comes out of nowhere and just kills him.
That might have actually been Deep Blue Sea.
Deep Blue Sea, whatever, one of them.
Yeah.
They just confirmed it. Deep Blue Sea. Yeah, he died in that.
And you know what? Come to think of it, yeah, I'm being unfair. Jurassic Park, dead.
If I was gonna watch it again, that was freaking cheap.
So yeah, Jeepers Creepers 3 as a horror movie, I again wouldn't really call it a horror movie because
It's a thriller.
it really is a thriller. Like you go it to see a monster,
Yeah.
and he's really the focus of the
It's
film.
kind of like The Fog. I mean, you know that there's a monster there. You know.
I wouldn't say it's like The Fog because you don't know what's in the fog.
I
And
mean,
that's
you know
built
it's
that
a
that
monster, though. That's killing everything.
but that's building suspense because you don't know what it is. Like that's pretty much just like the first film. Like you know it's something and it's building suspense, but you don't know what it is.
Yeah, in this one, you see him clear. That's the thing. Even in the second film, you didn't always get a good look at him. In this one, you see him.
Oh yeah.
That was another thing too. The makeup artists and all that sort of stuff did a great job.
Is this movie?
Yeah.
No. This movie is not a comedy. It's a thriller. It has.
Yeah,
funny,
that's not even really a funny moment.
Take your comedy
It does have its funny moments, but that's. that's a
Not
thriller.
really.
Take your comedy-loving girlfriend to one of these things.
I chuckled like twice, so it's not laugh out loud funny a whole lot, you know. But it has an occasional moment where it'll strike you.
Yeah, because like sometimes when we see the creeper creeping up behind somebody, we're like, oh, here he's coming.
Yep.
So it's fun that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would definitely recommend this movie if you are into monster movies or thrillers or horror because it's a lot of fun to watch. especially with
Yeah.
friends. If you're a fan of these type of characters, if you like Freddy Krueger, if you like Jason, if you like Michael Myers, if you like Pinhead, if you like Pennywise, if you like Candyman,
Well, I mean, stuff like that is proving to be popular right now.
if you like, if you like, insert, if you like Ash, if you like Leatherface, if you like Chucky, if you like other names are escaping me, then you'll like this guy.
Hmm.
He's a classic.
So yeah, Jeepers Creepers 3. Good movie. A lot of fun. It's not the best movie ever made, not near any of the best movies ever made, but it's definitely a
Yep.
fun movie to watch. You will definitely not be bored.
That's true. It's a fun ride. You're not going to walk out of there going, man, I just wasted my 2 hours. I did not feel that way. Is it going to neatly sew up the saga between the first and second movies? No, not really.
But at the end of the day,
That's,
it still is a movie that is made for fans, and it does its job at being entertaining.
yeah, it does.
So at that, I give it an A plus because at the end of the day, it did its job.
Yeah. It's still at best gets a C plus from me, but
I'm giving it an A plus based on the job that it was trying to do.
yeah,
If it didn't do that, then I would go down in hell. I would not give it an A plus, like as in great movies that are like, oh, I'm putting this on my top tens or anything, like or even on Critica. Not an A plus in that regard. I give it an A on it's an enjoyable film. It did exactly what it set out to do. I enjoyed it. I got what I feel like I wanted out of it. Being a Jeepers Creepers fan for like 15 plus years, waiting for this, I felt like the payoff was a bit worth it. Not everything I got. I didn't get all the answers that I wanted, but I was genuinely surprised by some of the stuff. I did not expect to see Gina Phillips coming back to reprise her role as Trish in this movie, but to see her narrate and come back at the end, that was a genuine surprise, and it really did build up a little bit more of the hype that maybe we might get a fourth one. So until then, I enjoyed this movie. I hope that you guys find a way to get to see it and gauge it for yourself. If you're into monster movies, awesome. If you're not, then you probably aren't watching this anyway.
It's not a perfect one, but
It had a budget, that's for sure. Like
yeah,
not all the CG was great. Couple,
some of it I would admit would be done by like a fresh out of college student, you know?
yeah, I suppose so. Like some of the effects were a little sloppy.
yeah.
Not laughably black. Not like in the movie Clown where you got half a Mountain Dew bottle cropped out.
You had to mention clown.
He's not the greatest, man. The world is
God,
not, but everybody loves the clown.
oh God. Yes, that's a movie he showed me to torture me with. If you haven't seen that one, by the way, it's
That's
worth it.
another movie that is great to watch.
It's ridiculous. It's a bad movie, but it's a bad movie you enjoy, sort of like in a Mystery Science Theater 3000 kind of way. So
it's a great movie to riff.
yeah.
So, guys, your final thoughts on Jeepers Creepers 3? Any final thoughts you want to say for the people out there?
I think I pretty much covered it. I'm good.
That's a chick Batman says he laughed the whole movie. Honestly, so was I, because I was happy every time the Creeper was on scene because I knew what he was going to do, and I'm like, oh, here he comes! He's coming! So, yeah,
See,
I was enjoying it.
to me, like, I mean, I chuckled. I heard other people chuckle, but the audience never roared with laughter.
Like, the audience was pretty into it. Yeah, actually, that's the last thing I'll say. The audience that we had, they were pretty into it. Like, they were giggling at some of the parts that we were giggling at, like, oh, he's going to get it. At some of the stupid things the characters were doing, they were like, ah! And when the Creeper were coming, everybody was like, oh, here he comes! So it's especially more fun when you're watching it with an audience who's equally into it.
Agreed. I mean, absolutely. That'll make any film worth it if you're really with the cult audience that loves it.
And that's why I say, like, the Paranormal Activity movies, they are fantastic movies to watch in a theater. If you ever get the opportunity to watch Paranormal Activity in a theater, do it, because you will rarely find a better movie theater experience because everybody is so into it.
Yep.
Okay, guys, so thank you for sticking with us as we dissected and talked about Jeepers Creepers 3. I am actually really excited, and I hope that there's a fourth one, and I would like to hear news about whether that will happen soon. I sort of cringe at the idea of wanting to check out other people's reviews, because I think that while we enjoyed it, and when you're yeah,
Quite a bit of.
while we enjoyed it and we can understand what the good things about it, I think other people might be a little jaded or might not understand what this is about and might have their own glaring opinions on a certain director who did a crime 30 years ago, and that has
To be honest, I think
blinded
it's
them.
at this point.
Yeah, I think it's coloring people's perceptions, which is a shame.
And unfortunately, because of these perceptions that people have, I'm also worried about the blind sheep who will just follow willy nilly what other people say based on that and be like, this guy said this movie sucks, it must suck, instead of judging for themselves, which we always encourage. Like, we can tell you why we think something's good, but we never are going to say that this is a sure thing and you are wrong for having your opinion. Go check it out for yourself. If you like this style of monster movie, go check it out. You might be genuinely surprised and you might like it. If you're not into monster movies, nothing's going to change that here.
No, if you're not into monster movies, still watch it.
But yeah, nothing is going to change your mind about the Creeper. He's just like all the other monsters. He's got his cult fans and he's got the things that make him special. Let's see. I'm glad you guys did a great review. A lot of other people did bad reviews. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's actually why we wanted to make it, because we heard those first few and we're like, you know what? No, this isn't working for us, because we had stuff we liked and stuff we needed to point out, and it just wasn't there. So,
Yeah.
thank you for sticking with us.
Yeah, and the complaints that people were having were just they pretty much. Anyway,
Yeah.
guys, thank you so much for hanging out. I know this review was really long, but you know what? Some people like to listen to this stuff in the car, wherever. So we hope you enjoyed it. If you want to hear more movie reviews, in-depth thoughts about certain pop culture stuff, movies, games, or anything like instead of just a regular review that we guys do, and you like these really long, thought-out vlog, podcast sort of things, let us know, and we might come together and just talk about more of it and get in depth with it. And
hopefully next time, like with the game over it.
yeah, let us know
Maybe.
what you guys think. Did you guys enjoy Jeepers Creepers 3? Did you guys get a chance to see Jeepers Creepers 3? Did you want to see the movie but were unfortunate to find out that your theater sold out? Did yours get boycotted and you were unfortunate enough that your theater couldn't show it? Are you guys interested in seeing it? Let us know. We would like to hear all your thoughts and answer all your questions. Please discuss in the comments below. We would love to discuss the idea of the mythos of the Creeper. Until next time, my friends, keep on gaming, keep on watching your movies, and we will see you next time.
Oh yeah, and see the Discord.
Oh yeah, we have a Discord chat to discuss this in too, so it's down there below.
Yes, yep.
And now is the part where we wait for the stream to catch up so we can just suddenly end it because streaming is weird. I hope you guys do a review for the Cult of Chucky. Ooh, that ought to be fun.
I could try other horror stuff. Horror isn't really my bread and butter. It's really Williams, but he drags me into things, and I'll always let you know what I think. You know, I'll point out the problems. I won't dump on it too much, and I'll try and enjoy the ride if so.
I think you'll like the new Chucky movies. They're actually pretty fun.
I know the first Child's Play and Child's Play 2 actually I saw, and that was it. That's all I've ever seen.